Hello! What's up, guys? It's me, your old friend, Tanner Babcock here, coming at you with another new video. Today I'm going to show you how to install Alpine Linux. Yes, Alpine Linux is a small and lightweight Linux distribution that uses the Musel libc library. It also uses OpenRC instead of systemd for its init system, and it also uses BusyBox. That's another thing that makes it small and lightweight, so I figure I'll make a video about this Linux distro. So go ahead and download Alpine Linux. I'm going to be installing it in a virtual machine. I clicked on this one to download the Alpine Linux ISO file, this green button right here. And you want to make sure you're also going to want to download this SHA-256 hash code so that you can verify the integrity of your downloaded ISO file. So I'll show you how to do that right now. I'm going to go to my VM directory. As you can see, I have two files in here, the Alpine Linux ISO file and this SHA-256 file, and I'm going to show you how to verify this. So I'm going to type SHA-256 sum Alpine standard. And so the string that it spits out starts with a CFEF39. Now I'm going to cat the file alpine standard.sha256. And yes, that is the exact same string, so I have verified the integrity of this Alpine Linux ISO file. So let's install it. Here's my virt manager here. This is what I use to install virtual machines. And I'm going to choose local install media. I'm going to click browse, go to my VM directory, choose the Alpine standard ISO here. It automatically detected Alpine Linux 3.23. Memory, I'll give it 4 gigs of my 7.5 gigs of memory, and I'll give it 4 CPU cores because I am making a video. I'm going to create a disk image for the virtual machine. It looks like I can only do 14 gigabytes. That's fine, 14.0 gigabytes. And yeah, we're ready to go. I'll click finish, and it's going to boot up the Alpine Linux installer. So we've booted up. Now I'm just going to type root, and I've logged in to the Alpine Linux virtual system. So now, to run the Alpine Linux installer script, you're going to have to pass some environment variables. What that means is I can type a use EFI equals 1. I could also type a swap space equal, it's swap size equals 4096 and boot size 512. And then you type setup Alpine. And that's how you start the installer. This first option here, use EFI 1, you're going to use that if you're going to be installing Alpine Linux on a real computer. And what this does is it tells the installer to install the grub bootloader. Just the typical grub bootloader like you've seen 100 times before. That's what this does for you. But since I'm installing this on a virtual machine, I'm not going to use this use EFI environment variable. I'm also going to make the swap size a little bit smaller. 2048 for 2 gigabytes swap size. Yeah, that looks fine, so I'm going to press enter to run the setup Alpine script. It's asking me about my keyboard layout. I'm going to type US. I'm going to type US again. And there's some log messages right there. Enter system host name. So the string that's in the brackets there, the local host, that's the default option. If you just press enter and you don't type anything, it's going to use the default option. I'm going to name my system box. So this is where you set up the internet or networking, because I'm using a virtual machine that uses the internet from my wired Ethernet connection. I just have to type ETH0, and that's the default option. IP address for this, just press enter. Do you want to do any manual network configuration? So if you're installing this on a real computer and you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, I think you can do that right here, but I'm all good with internet for my virtual machine, so I'm going to press N. And this starts a DHCP CD. Changing password for root. I'm just going to make the root password 123. Bad password, too short. Gonna make it 123. So now I set my root password. It's asking me about my time zone. I'm going to type in America. What sub-time zone of America are you in? I'm going to type Denver, the mile-high city. There's the BusyBox log messages from BusyBox. What BusyBox actually does is it takes all of the GNU utils, the CP, MV, RM commands, all of those programs, and it compacts all of them into a single binary. So all of those programs that you use 10 times a day, CD, MV, CP, BusyBox confines all of those programs into just one executable file. So that's another thing that makes Alpine Linux lightweight and fast. It's asking me if I have a HTTP proxy. I'm going to press enter because I don't. So now this part, when it first asks you about the APK mirror, you're going to type C to enable the community repository. Trust me, you are going to want to do this, and this has to be the first thing that you type when it prompts you with this menu. I'm going to type C, and that enables the community repository. After this, I'm going to type F to find and use the fastest mirror available. So now this process it can take a couple minutes, so I'm going to stop the video right now, and I'll come back when it's done finding the fastest mirror. So yeah, I'll be right back. And I'm back. So that process is done. All that really does is it goes through a long list of URLs, and it tries to figure out which server is the fastest and the most responsive, and then it decides to use that mirror for the APK package manager. Now it's asking me if I want to set up a user. So I'm going to type my own name, Tanner, full name for user, Tanner. Changing password for Tanner. So the root password is going to be 123, and my user password is just 321. Bad password, too short. Enter SSH key or URL for Tanner. I'll just press enter for none. Which SSH server? I'm going to press enter to use the default option, Open SSH. That is the SSH program from OpenBSD. That's what that means. That's a very good sign. That's a green flag on a Linux distro. So now we're going to set up our disks. Now, because I'm using a virtual machine, there's only one option here. It says VDA. That's the virtual disk image that I'm going to be using. If you are installing Alpine Linux on a real computer, this part is going to look different. It's not going to say VDA, it's going to say SDA if you have an internal hard disk drive. Or if you have a solid state drive, this is going to say NVMe01 or something like that. But that's your main disk right there. It's 15 gigabytes. That's really all I need to show you how it works. So I'm going to type VDA. The following disk is selected, VDA. How would you like to use it? So now there is another option that is not visible in the list of options that it gives you. It tells you can do a sys, data, crypt, LVM, or question mark for help. But what option is not in the list? Just type crypt sys. And what this does is it installs the Alpine Linux system for you, and it's encrypted. It has almost full disk encryption. Warning, erase the above disks and continue. Yes. So now I'm going to set my my passphrase to decrypt the hard drive every time I boot. So this passphrase, make sure you write it down, make sure you remember it. Obviously, you're not going to be able to boot into your computer if you forget this passphrase. So I'm just going to make it 1, 2. Press enter, 1, 2. It'll take a couple seconds here. Enter password again to unlock disk for installation. I'll press 1, 2. And so now it's creating the logical volumes inside of the encrypted virtual hard disk. It has a logical volume for the swap space, which I specified as 2 gigabytes, and it created another logical volume for the root partition. It installed the kernel, and it's done. There's Alpine Linux. So let's reboot. I'm going to type reboot. So now, if you had given the setup Alpine installer script the use EFI equals 1, this would be different right now. You would see the grub, you would see the standard grub menu. And you would use grub to boot Alpine Linux, and you would choose Alpine Linux from the menu, and then you would see this. It's prompting you for the passphrase that you just came up with, so I'm going to type 1, 2, press enter. And here we go. It's booting Alpine Linux with OpenRC. That's right, no systemd here. Just good old homegrown free software. And we're done. We've booted into our new Alpine Linux system. So I'm going to log in as myself, type Tanner. My password is 321, and I'm logged in. It says, welcome to Alpine. First things first, I'm going to check to see if I'm connected to the internet, because I need to use the internet to do a couple of things. I'm going to type ping google.com, and as you can see, I am connected to the internet. I am getting a response from google.com. If you're installing this on a real computer and you just have an Ethernet cord plugged in, it's probably going to be that easy. If you're trying to connect to your Wi-Fi router and trying to use Wi-Fi, I'm not really going to cover that in this tutorial. I'm just going to use my wired Ethernet connection. But I will show you a few things how to set up Wi-Fi for yourself at the end of this video. So now, as soon as you boot into your brand new Alpine Linux system, there's one command you have to type. It's very important. Do as apk capital U upgrade. And it'll ask me for my password. I'll type 321. And it says OK. So all I really did was just made sure all of my installed packages are up to date. I made sure my new Alpine Linux system is up to date. You might have noticed I typed do as instead of sudo. Do as is just like sudo. I'm sure it's better than sudo in many ways because it comes from the BSD family of operating systems. But yeah, throughout this tutorial, we're going to be using do as. So now let's set up a couple things before I start installing our system, our desktop. I'm going to type mkdir p.config/rc/runlevels/GUI. This will allow me to have set up a new OpenRC run level for when we're actually logged into a display server. I'm going to make a few more directories here. mkdir config sway, config/foot, config/waybar, config/fish. And now we're going to be installing our Wayland desktop. Now Alpine Linux makes this process really easy. There's a few installer scripts that will help you, and I'm going to use a couple of them now. I'm going to type a do as setup Wayland base, just like that. And it's installing a bunch of packages. As you can see, it's installing dbus, polkit, libmount, all the stuff it needs. It also added the dbus service to the default run level. So dbus is automatically going to be started every time we start our new Alpine Linux system. So we did setup Wayland base. Now after that we have to do as setup desktop space sway. And this is going to install the sway Wayland compositor. So now we're actually going to have a graphical user interface and a lightweight, bare minimum, but still usable desktop environment. It's going to install quite a few packages here. It installs sway BG, sway bar, sway lock, sway idle, all of that stuff. It also installs the foot terminal and Firefox. I think it installed Firefox too. So now that we've ran those two commands, you're going to want to do these things to make sure you're actually able to start a sway session. I'm going to type do as rc update add elogind default. Now you can use elogind or seatd to start your Wayland compositor sessions. I've never gotten seatd to work on my virtual machine, so I'm going to stick with elogind. As you can see, it says service elogind added to run level default. That means elogind is going to be started automatically every time we start our system. I'm going to type a couple more commands like this. Do as rc update add dbus default. So we didn't really need to type that, but I think it's a good thing that we did. It says dbus already installed in run level default, skipping. Now we're going to type do as rc update add udev sysinit. And that says the same thing, udev already installed in run level sysinit. And there's one more, do as rc update add dmcrypt boot. Service dmcrypt added to run level boot. Okay. So now we're going to reboot our brand new Alpine Linux system and see what happens. Do as reboot. Now if you did choose to install the grub bootloader, there is a way you can configure it so you don't have to type your passphrase every time you reboot. It took me a while to figure out how to do that on my own computer. I'm not going to get into that in this tutorial. But aha, see, we're booting. There's the file system check for our encrypted hard drive. Look at the very bottom there. Look at the very bottom log messages. Starting system message bus, that's dbus. Starting system login manager, that's eLogInD. I'm going to log in, type Tanner 321, and I'm in. So now there's a few more things we're going to do. We need to install some more packages so we can actually have a nice and comfortable Linux user experience. I'm going to show you how to install those packages right now. I'm going to type do as apk add util linux. Util Linux has a lot of important programs that you kind of need, and you can't really go without these programs, so I'm going to install those. One of those programs is called lsblk. You can type that, and that will show you your entire disk layout. So as you can see, the VDA1, that's my boot partition. That is not encrypted. That is 512 megabytes. I have my root partition, the VDA2, that is encrypted and has 2 logical volumes. You can see the swap space there. We have 2 gigabytes of swap space, and we have 11 gigabytes for our root partition. And you know, I know that we did this the right way. I'm going to show you how I know. See, if I just open up a terminal and I type lsblk, you will see the same thing. See, there's the encrypted partition, there's my swap space, and there's my root partition. So yeah, the Alpine Linux installer, it's doing everything correctly. So now in Alpine Linux, if you want to know how to use these programs that you install, I could type man lsblk. It's going to tell me man not found. You know, what the hell? So you actually have to install the program man and man pages separately from the actual programs. I'll show you how to do that. You can type do as apk add util linux /doc. See, every package, almost every package, there's another package that has the documentation where it ends in /doc. So now I need to install a couple more. Do as apk add man-doc man-pages. So now, if I type man lsblk, I have a nice man page. So I know how to properly use lsblk. So that's how you install documentation for programs or man pages for programs on Alpine Linux. I'm going to do a couple more things here. I'm going to install all the packages that I want. I'm going to type do as apk add fish xdg desktop portal wlr pipewire pulse wire plumber htop git vim fast fetch qt browser fuzzle pavu control waybar add weta icon theme nerd fonts all wlr random. Oh my god, I typed ADPK. How embarrassing. APK add. So now it's installing a whole bunch of programs, a whole bunch of packages. You might notice it's installing these fish completion packages, foot fish completion. This makes it so I can use tab completions in my new fish shell. Now it's installing all of the nerd fonts. It takes up a lot of space for all of those fancy fonts that have the Unicode glyphs in them. But that's how you install all of those, just nerd fonts all. I'm installing Pipewire, HTOP, Vim, just a lot of common tools that everybody needs and everybody uses. Jesus, I hope I don't run out of disk space. I'm already running low. This is the bulk of the packages that I want you to install right here. And you don't really have to install these specific packages. You don't have to use Waybar. You don't have to use Sway. I'm just installing the packages that I want. So I can show you how I would set up my hypothetical Alpine Linux system. I think it's almost done. Yes, it's done. Now I'm going to type a few more commands. This part of the video might be tedious or boring, but we have to do this stuff. We have to type in these commands, so I'm going to get started right now. Type cp etc sway config and copy the default sway configuration into our user configuration .config/sway. Going to type a... Now this time I'm not going to type do as because I don't need root privileges to run these commands. I'm just going to type rc update u add pipewire GUI. Said service pipewire added to run level GUI. rc update capital U add wire plumber GUI. Service wire plumber added to run level GUI. And I need to change my shell because I don't want to use bash, I want to use the fish shell. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to type do as user mod Tanner, or type in the username for the new user that you made, -s user bin fish. So now my default shell is the fish shell. And before I fire up the fish shell, I'm going to write some configuration for it. I'm going to type vim.config/fish/config.fish. What are we going to type in here? So this first line, this is tedious, but this is very necessary. If you try to use the fish shell and you don't have this next line in your config.fish file, you're not going to be able to use the apk command. So you need to manually set your path variable /user/bin /bin/sbin :/user/sbin /user/local/bin and /user/local/sbin. That is our path. We also need to define a few environment variables so we can properly start our sway session. Export xdg session type Wayland. Export xdg session desktop sway. Export xdg current desktop sway. You know, you should be grateful I'm showing you how to install all of the Wayland stuff directly. We're not even going to mess with X11. We're not even going to deal with that shit. We're Wayland all the way, baby. But that means we got to type all of this stuff. Moz enable Wayland equals 1. Export qt-qpa platform Wayland. Export SDL video driver Wayland. Export xcursor theme, add weta, export xcursor size 36. There's our config.fish file. So I'm going to add a few more files here. I'm going to make dir config/fish/functions. Going to then config/fish/functions/start.fish. So now we are going to write a new function for our fish shell. And the way we do that is we write the word function start that's it. It's just the word start, and this is what we're going to use to launch our sway session. End. And in the middle here, you'll press Tab key, dbus run session. Sway. And that's it. So now you can log out. We type exit. Here's the login prompt again. I'm going to type my username Tanner, password 321, and as you can see now I'm using the fish shell. Welcome to Fish, the friendly interactive shell. And you might notice that as I start typing commands, it automatically completes the command that it thinks I'm going to be typing. Or if I type vim and then press tab, I guess there are no files, CD and then tab, we have tab completion right here because we installed the fish shell. That's really nice. Now we're going to configure Sway so that our Sway Wayland desktop has a sensible key bindings, sensible programs. We want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row and everything's ready to go before we start our Sway desktop. So I'm going to type vim.config/sway/config. And this is the default Sway configuration file that is shipped with the Sway package. We're going to make a few changes here. Foot is actually foot client, because we are going to start Foot as a server. We're going to use fuzzle for our menu. Right here I'm going to type exec foot -- config home Tanner config foot.ini is the configuration file I'm going to be using for my Foot server. And I'm also going to type -- server ampersand. So this starts our Foot server, and this will allow us to spawn Foot client terminals. I guess this line for the output will technically work, but we need it to be a little bit more specific for our purposes. I'm going to type a virtual 1. That's the name of the virtual monitor we are using. I'm going to type a mode 1920 x 1080. So we have full 1080p display, scale 1.0. Another thing you need to type is exec openrc-U GUI. This tells OpenRC that we are starting a graphical session, and it tells it to run everything in the GUI run level. So this line is actually going to start Pipewire and Wire Plumber for us. We'll worry about the input later. Kill focus window. I like to have that be a C instead of a Q. I like to have it be a space to launch the fuzzle menu, R to reload, and Q to quit. It's already another key binding that uses mod space. Yes. To make a floating window, we'll just make it mod T. There, that's fine. Oh, something else I forgot to add. This part is kind of important too. Somewhere near the top of your Sway configuration file, you're going to want to type exec dbus update activation environment. And you have to type all of the environment variables that we just got done defining, as well as stuff like Wayland display, XDG current desktop, i3 sock, Sway sock, Qt QPA platform, Moz enable Wayland, X cursor size, X cursor theme, SDL video driver. I think I forgot one. That's alright though. We'll save our config file. I gotta add a couple more things here. and then we will be ready to start our Sway desktop. I'm going to type for window class equals caret.asterisk so that our windows look nice and they don't look ugly like they do by default in Sway. I like to have these options on: smart gaps on and smart borders on. Yeah, you always got to have gaps and smart gaps. I'll define the gaps inner for, gaps outer 2. And then the last thing we have to type in this file is just exec pipewire pulse ampersand. All right, I think we're ready to start our Sway session. So now I'm logged into Fish. I wrote that function for Fish that's called start. All I have to do is type start. Let's see what happens. Aha! Aha, here's our Sway session. We are in the beautiful 1080p world now. Yes, my friends, this is how you install a graphical Wayland session on Alpine Linux. As you can see, if I press the key binding mod enter, that spawns a new foot terminal. Here's 2 foot terminals side by side. It's giving me an error because I specified a config file that doesn't exist. So that's what that error is. But you can make that configuration file later. Type lsblk, we can type df-h to see how our hard disk is doing. I still have a 7.4 gigs available. That's kind of weird. I only have 1.8 gigs available. I don't know. But hey, we can type fast fetch now. How about that? Alpine Linux, using a brand new Linux kernel, 576 packages. That's not bad. That's pretty good. It's idling at 465 megabytes out of its 4 gigs of memory that I gave it. That's pretty awesome. So here we go. Here's Alpine Linux. You know, fuck systemd, fuck all that other stuff. You know, you should go with an alternative Linux distribution, because, you know, Linux distributions like Alpine Linux, they exist for a reason. People want there to be a Linux distribution that, you know, works for them and doesn't have systemd and doesn't have the standard glibc library. Sometimes people want a system that's a little more lightweight than that. I'll show you how to do a few other things here. So if you want to find out how to set up your inputs in your Sway configuration file, you're going to type a sway msg t get inputs. And that will give you a list of inputs. Obviously, if you're using a real computer, it's going to show you completely different devices, your own physical devices that you have plugged in. But for me, in the virtual machine, it just says this. So I'm going to edit my Sway configuration file and change the inputs. Here we go, input configuration. So now this is how you change the properties for your mouse or your keyboard. I'm just going to type input 1, product ID 1, and vendor ID 1. AT translated set to keyboard. Repeat delay 305 milliseconds. Input 1, AT translated set to keyboard. Repeat rate 50. Also gonna make it show us a nice cursor, not this tiny default cursor. Seat 0, X cursor theme, add weight to 36. So now we configured our inputs. How do I reload the config? I think I made it mod shift R. Yes, mod shift R. Aha! Look at the cursor now. Yes, we got a nice big arrow for a cursor that looks like my real cursor. So, how about the keyboard? Aha! The keyboard is now more responsive. It sends more keystrokes per tick when you hold down the key. I don't know. That's how you define and you configure your hardware devices, your keyboard and your mouse. And, you know, I always like to change the scroll sensitivity on my mouse. I always like my mouse to be really sensitive. All right, so now we have our sway configuration file all done. Let's work on the foot configuration file so our foot terminal looks nice. config/foot/foot.ini. Shell is going to be user bin fish. Our font is Deja Vu Sans Mono. Pixel size 19, anti-alias true. And for our bold font, it's going to be Deja Vu Sans Mono. Style equals bold, colon. Pixel size 19, anti-alias true. And we also have font italic. I'm going to set the italic font. Deja Vu Sans Mono, style italic. Pixel size 19. Anti-alias true. Pad is 8x8. Center. Cursor. Style beam. Blink yes. And let's make this transparent. Let's make it look a little nicer. Colors. Background 000000. Foreground EF. Alpha 0.5. All right, now let's log out of Sway and log back into it. Yes, exit Sway. So let's see what happens now. I'll just type start again. Here's our Sway desktop. Aha! And now our foot terminal looks a lot nicer than it did a few minutes ago. It has the transparent background. It has a reasonable font and a reasonable font size. And here's HTOP. So these are all of the processes that are currently running on our brand new Alpine Linux system. Here's our foot server, here's Pipewire and Wire Plumber, Sway BG, Sway Bar. Yeah. And what is that? 199 megabytes out of 4 gigabytes of memory? That's pretty good. Hey man, Alpine Linux. You can do whatever you want. I mean, you don't need systemd. You don't need X11. You don't really need any of this stuff. Here's some more programs or some more tricks that might help you with your Alpine Linux journey. So if we want to type a man sway, you know, I haven't installed the documentation packages for that, so I'm going to go ahead and install some man pages for all of the programs that I just installed. I'm going to type do as apk add sway doc and foot doc Pipewire dock. It's really that simple. I mean, that's what you have to do to get the man pages for the programs that you install, but it's really not a big deal. Vim dock, Waybar dock. You can also install things like man pages POSIX or S6 Linux init man pages. So this is going to install some packages. Now I can type man sway, and I can actually see the man page for sway. So yeah, if you install a program and you don't know how to use the program you just installed, make sure you use the do as apk command to install the documentation. If you want to set up Wi-Fi, if you don't have Wi-Fi set up for yourself yet, there's a few programs that you need. I'm sure you know what those programs are, and we're going to install them. Do as apk add WPA supplicant /doc WPA supplicant OpenRC. There we go. Now I'm going to type do as rc update add WPA supplicant default. So what this command does is it tells OpenRC to launch WPA supplicant at the default run level. So anytime you boot the computer, it will automatically start WPA supplicant. You can also type man WPA supplicant, so you know how to use this obscure technical Linux utility that we all depend on. You might need to look at that manual page for a little bit. And then you would do something like do as touch etc WPA supplicant.com. And you would put your wireless Wi-Fi configuration in that file. If you want to use Network Manager, I'll show you how to install those packages. Do as apk add Network Manager OpenRC, Network Manager Bluetooth, Network-Manager-Applet. You know, the NM applet that everybody loves and everybody depends on. Network Manager Applet-Doc, Network Manager, all one word, CLI, Network Manager TUI, Network Manager GTK Doc, Network Manager QT, Network Manager QT Doc. This installs all of the Network Manager stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other packages, other Network Manager packages that I didn't install. To look at available packages, you can type, if you are using the fish shell like I am, you can type do as apk add and then press tab. And you can tab through all of the available Alpine Linux packages. There is 13,785 packages for Alpine Linux, and they're all right here. So those are the packages you need if you want to set up Wi-Fi. You would also do this, do as rc update add Network Manager default. And so to tell OpenRC to start Network Manager automatically every time we boot. If you want to install Bluetooth stuff, if you want to get your Bluetooth devices up and running, you're going to install a different set of packages. You're going to type do as apk add blues OpenRC, blues ALSA, blues firmware, blues dock, blues tools dock. And there. I just installed all of the Bluetooth stuff. So now I can use my brand new Alpine Linux installation to connect to my Bluetooth devices. You also have to do this, do as rc update add Bluetooth default. Service Bluetooth added to run level default. How about that? Here's some more programs you might be interested in. I don't know, do as apk add fzf, fzf doc, mpv, mpv doc, lf, lf doc. So now we can type fzf. We could also come up with a cool shell script, vim fzf. Find a file, open it in Vim. But anyway, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with Alpine Linux here. I hope I've given you enough information. I hope I've shown you that Alpine Linux is a real Linux distribution. You can do lots of great things on it. And I could dive a little bit deeper into the Alpine Linux ecosystem and their community and their build system, but I'm running out of disk space, as you can see. Oh man. Alright, well, that's my video. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've had some fun learning about Alpine Linux with me. I hope I've made it seem like a cool Linux distribution, because it is a cool Linux distribution. It's not just cool, it's really small, it's efficient, it's lightweight, and it's secure. It is honestly a great choice for a Linux distribution. I'm going to talk about my website for just a second, because I have to. Yes, here's my website, tannerbabcock.com. If you're interested in anything about me, if you want to see some cool Linux stuff, if you want to look at my art or listen to my music, just click on the link in the description for tannerbabcock.com. There's all kinds of great things on here. If you want some help installing Alpine Linux, I will put links to the Alpine Linux wiki down there in the video description. So, thanks for watching my video, guys. I really appreciate it. My name is Tanner Babcock. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I very much appreciate it. If there's anyone out there at all who wants to donate some money to me, you can just go to my website, tannerbabcock.com, and go all the way down to the bottom. There's a link that says donate. You can donate with PayPal, or you can donate with Monero. Well, I hope you found this video useful. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed watching me type commands into a virtual machine. So yeah, that's Alpine Linux. My name is Tanner Babcock. Peace.